My name is Annabella, and the night I opened my eyes in the hospital, I knew two things. First, I had survived the crash no one believed I could live through. Second, the man who vowed to stand by me, my husband, was already gone. The machines beeped steadily beside my bed. Every breath sent knives through my ribs. Every blink reminded me that I should not even be alive. Nurses whispered outside the door. "She made it," one said softly. "It's a miracle." But I caught something else in their voices: hesitation, fear. I asked for him. For Thomas. My husband of 8 years. The man who promised forever. The nurse hesitated, then lowered her eyes. "He hasn't come. Not once." A chill ran through me stronger than the pain. Hours dragged until my sister Elaine arrived. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she clutched mine. "Annabella," she whispered, "you need to know the truth before it reaches you some other way." My stomach knotted. "Tell me." Her voice cracked. "While you were unconscious, Thomas filed for divorce. And a month ago, he married someone else." The words hit harder than the crash. I froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. "He married? While I was still?" "Yes," Elaine said, her eyes wet. "And it gets worse. They held a funeral. Coffin, a service, everything. He buried you while you were still alive in this hospital bed." The world tilted. My husband had erased me, declared me gone, and rewritten his life without even looking back. But Elaine wasn't finished. She pulled a sealed envelope from her purse. "This came from Uncle Richard's attorneys. It arrived while you were in a coma. Annabella, you inherited $11 million. Her words sank in slowly, sharper than the 4-needle in my arm. 11 million. Money Thomas had no clue existed. He thought I was dead. He thought he was free. He thought he could start over with a new wife and bury my memory forever. I pressed my hand against my chest, feeling the rise and fall of my breath. Surviving was not just a miracle, it was a weapon. He had underestimated me. He had counted me out. And that mistake would cost him everything. "Does he know?" I asked Elaine. She shook her head. "Not yet. He's living his new life. But when he finds out, Annabella, he'll come for you. For the money. For control." I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them with fire burning behind the pain. "Then let him try. I am not the woman he gets to erase." The room fell silent. The steady beep of the monitors echoed like a countdown. And then the door creaked. A nurse wheeled in a bouquet of deep red roses. My heart skipped. They weren't from Elaine. She looked just as shocked as I did. I pulled the card free, my hand shaking. No signature, just a single line scrawled in handwriting I knew too well. Thomas's handwriting. "For the life I built without you." My chest tightened. My husband knew more than I thought. And if those flowers were here, it meant only one thing: Thomas knew I was alive. The roses sat on my nightstand like a wound that would not close. Every glance at them felt like a knife turning in my chest. He knew I was alive. He had buried me, replaced me, and now he dared to send flowers as if I were nothing more than a forgotten chapter. Elaine wanted to throw them out, but I stopped her. "No," I whispered, staring at the blood-red petals. "Let them sit there. A reminder." 3 days later, the silence broke. A tall figure filled the doorway of my hospital room. His tailored suit, the polished shoes, the faint trace of his cologne. I recognized them instantly. Thomas. He froze when our eyes met. His face drained of color, lips parting in shock. "Annabella." My chest tightened, not from injury but rage. "Surprised to see me alive?" His jaw flexed. For a moment he tried to smile, but the mask cracked. "The doctors said you were gone. They said." "Stop lying." I cut in. My voice was hoarse but steady. "You buried me. You didn't even wait." He looked away, shame flashing before arrogance returned. "It wasn't like that. I had to move on. I couldn't live in limbo." Elaine stepped between us, her hands clenched. "You moved on into another woman's arms while your wife was still breathing. You married her while Annabella was hooked to machines." Thomas's mouth tightened. "This isn't the place to." But the door swung wider, and another figure walked in. Blonde hair swept into waves, diamond earrings catching the light, a designer purse on her arm. She was younger, glowing, the picture of wealth and status. His new wife. Her eyes widened when she saw me. For a second, disbelief. Then fear. You're supposed to be dead. The words cut sharper than glass. I forced myself to sit straighter despite the pain. Disappointed to see me alive? Thomas shot her a look, but she raised her chin, her voice shaking. He told me you were gone. There was a funeral, a coffin, everything. Elaine snapped. An empty coffin. The woman's face paled. She looked at Thomas as though searching for reassurance, but he offered none. I stared at him, fury building. You erased me. You replaced me. And you thought the world would never know. Thomas leaned closer, his voice low, dangerous. You don't understand, Annabella. Things have changed. I have responsibilities now. And if you're smart, you'll stay quiet. Take whatever you need and disappear. The audacity made me laugh, hollow and sharp. Disappear? After you left me for dead? After you buried me? No, Thomas. You're the one who's about to disappear. Elaine pulled a folder from her bag and slapped it on the table between us. She inherited $11 million. That's right. $11 million. And you'll never touch a cent of it. For the first time, true panic crossed his face. His new wife gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. 11 million? His eyes darted between me, Elaine, and the folder. Greed battled with fear in his expression. Finally, he stepped back, smoothing his tie, forcing calm. We'll discuss this. Later. Privately. No, I said, my voice cold. There will be no private discussions. You lost that right the moment you signed another woman's vows while I was still breathing. Silence thickened. The new wife tugged at his sleeve, whispering, Let's go, Thomas. He hesitated, then turned on his heel, pulling her out of the room. But before the door closed, he looked back, his eyes sharp as knives. Be careful, Annabella. Money like that attracts enemies. And you might not survive twice. The door slammed. Elaine gripped my hand, her voice trembling. We need to be ready. He won't stop now. I nodded, staring at the roses still sitting on the nightstand. Their petals had begun to wilt, darkening at the edges, but their message was still clear. He had tried to bury me. Now he would learn what happens when the dead rise. That night, a letter slid under my hospital door. No name, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 words scrawled across it. They will come for you. The letter lay on my lap, the ink still fresh, the words, they will come for you, etched into my mind like a threat carved into stone. My pulse raced. It wasn't just Thomas. Someone else was watching me. Someone wanted me afraid. Elaine tried to dismiss it. It's just intimidation, she whispered. But her hands trembled as she folded the letter away. We'll show this to the lawyer tomorrow. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the hallway made my heart pound. When the nurse adjusted my I flinched. When shadows passed outside my door, I gripped the call button until my knuckles turned white. I knew Thomas too well. He wasn't going to walk away quietly. The next morning, Elaine brought me my laptop. You need to see this for yourself, she said grimly. She pulled up articles, headlines, business filings. There it was in black and white. Thomas had transferred property, cars, and stocks out of our shared name within weeks of the crash. All under shell companies tied to his new wife. My throat tightened. He stripped everything. Elaine nodded. But he made a mistake. Some of the transfers happened while you were still legally married. If we prove it, we can bring it all back. Her words lit a fire inside me. I wasn't just a survivor anymore, I was a hunter. With the help of a private investigator Mara recommended, we began digging. The man Harris was methodical, quiet, relentless. He showed up in my hospital room with a tablet full of files. Your husband's trail isn't clean, he said, flipping through emails, bank records, hotel bills. He got sloppy because he thought you'd never wake up. The photos hit me hardest. Thomas and his new wife smiling on vacation, drinking champagne, wrapped in each other's arms. All while I lay broken in a hospital bed. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to look. Each image wasn't pain, it was proof. Each receipt, each timestamp, each whispered transaction was a weapon waiting to be sharpened. But then Harris leaned closer. There's something bigger. Funds have been moving offshore. Millions. Not just from you, he's been siphoning from investors too. If this explodes, it won't just be about betrayal. It'll be criminal. The pieces clicked together. That was why someone warned me. That was why he panicked when Elaine mentioned the inheritance. This wasn't just about money or marriage, it was about survival. If Thomas fell, he would drag anyone down with him, even me. I stared out the hospital window at the city skyline. So we build a case. We don't just show the affair. We expose everything. Harris nodded. But you'll need allies. People who won't look away when he fights back. Once we start this, there's no going back. Elaine squeezed my hand. We already started the moment you woke up. The next day Mara visited. Her calm voice cut through my doubts. You have the inheritance. You have the law on your side. But you need to be careful. Men like Thomas don't lose gracefully. She slid a folder across my bed. Inside are names of contacts, journalists, legal experts, people who'll help. But the timing has to be perfect. If you move too soon, he'll bury it. If you move too late, he'll bury you. I opened the folder, scanning the names, the numbers. My chest tightened with determination. I wasn't going to let him write me off again. I was going to make him watch as the empire he built on lies collapse piece by piece. But as I closed the folder, something caught my eye. A reflection in the window. A man in the hospital courtyard below, staring up at my room. He wore a dark coat, his face hidden under a cap. He didn't move. He just stood there watching. When I looked back a second later, he was gone. That night, as Elaine prepared to leave, we found a second letter under the door. This one had only 3 words. You are next. The second letter sat on my tray, its words burned into me. You are next. Fear tried to sink its claws into my chest, but I refused to let it. I had been declared dead once. I wasn't going to let them bury me again. Elaine stayed the night in the hospital chair beside me, refusing to leave. If they think they can scare you, they're wrong, she said firmly, though her voice shook. By morning, I knew I needed more than family comfort. I needed allies who could match Thomas's greed and cunning with skill and strategy. That was when Mara returned. She arrived in a dark suit, a leather briefcase in her hand, her gaze sharp as a blade. She laid papers on my bed. Annabella, your situation is dangerous but not hopeless. You're sitting on proof of fraud, betrayal, and a financial trail wide enough to crush him in court. But to use it, you'll need protection and leverage. Protection? I asked. She nodded. If those letters are real, then intimidation has started. He's either sending them himself or someone in his circle is doing it for him. Harris can handle digging, but we'll need someone watching you as well. As if on cue, Harris walked in. The investigator's face was tired, his jaw set. I already traced the handwriting. The first letter doesn't match Thomas. The second one. My stomach twisted. He's threatening me directly. Harris nodded grimly. Which means he's desperate. And desperation makes men reckless. That's when they make mistakes. Mara tapped the stack of documents. Here's what we do. We build a team. Harris will continue tracing the money. I'll handle the legal groundwork. Elaine stays close. And I'll bring in one more contact. That evening, Mara introduced me to Lucas, a journalist she trusted. He entered the room with a recorder tucked into his jacket pocket, his eyes scanning everything with suspicion. I don't usually deal in family scandals, he admitted. But embezzlement tied to investors? Offshore laundering? That's more than gossip. That's a story people need to hear. I hesitated. If we go public, it could backfire. He'll smear me. Say I'm crazy. That I'm lying for money. Lucas leaned closer. Then you make sure your proof speaks louder than his lies. You survived the crash, Annabella. Now survive him. His words struck a chord. I had already cheated death. Why should I fear Thomas's games now? Over the next week, my room turned into a war room. Harris pinned receipts and photos on a board. Mara drafted motions and legal claims. Lucas recorded every detail, preparing the story for when the time was right. Elaine collected letters, notes, every scrap of evidence we found. The deeper we dug, the uglier it became. Offshore accounts under his new wife's name. Vacations billed as business trips. Jewelry purchased through company cards. Money stolen not just from me but from partners who trusted him. Each new discovery stoked my resolve. Each page of evidence was a weapon. And with every weapon, I felt less like a victim and more like a commander preparing for battle. But Harris was cautious. "There's one problem," he said one night, his voice low. "Timing. If we strike too early, he'll bury us in countersuits and spin the press against you. If we strike too late, he might move the money beyond reach. We need an event. A stage big enough to make sure no one can ignore the truth." Lucas smirked. "And I already know the stage. Thomas is hosting a gala in 2 months. Investors, press, city officials, all under one roof. If you want to end him, that's where you do it." The thought made my chest tighten, but I forced myself to nod. "Then that's where it ends." Elaine reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "He took everything from you. Your marriage. Your dignity. He even tried to take your life with lies. But now, Annabella, you'll take everything back." I looked at the wilting roses on the nightstand, the ones he had sent. Their petals had turned black at the edges, curling inward. They weren't flowers anymore. They were proof of arrogance, of betrayal, of his belief that I would stay silent. Not this time. That night, as I prepared to sleep, Harris handed me a USB drive. "Don't open this yet," he warned. "It's what I found on his mistress. When you see it, you'll understand why the gala isn't just about revenge, it's about survival." The USB drive felt heavier than its size should allow. I turned it over in my hand, my pulse quickening. Harris's words echoed. "Don't open this yet. It's what I found on his mistress." I wanted to know. I wanted to rip the truth open and stare it in the face. But something in his tone told me this was more than just receipts or photographs. So I slipped it into Elaine's bag and forced myself to wait. For now the focus was clear. If the gala was going to be the battlefield, then we had to prepare our weapons. Mara spread blueprints of the venue across the table in my hospital room. "The Investors' Gala will be held at the Whitmore Hotel downtown. Cameras everywhere. Press invited. If we drop everything there, Thomas won't be able to bury it. Not even with lawyers, not even with money." Lucas leaned forward. "I can time the release. While you confront him in person, I'll push the story online. Within minutes, every screen in that building will show the evidence. The world won't be able to unsee it." Elaine frowned. "And what if he tries to stop her? Security will be on his side." Harris tapped his pen against the table. "That's where I come in. I'll control access to the presentation system. If Thomas tries to shut it down, I'll lock him out. The footage, the bank transfers, the receipts, they'll keep playing until the truth is undeniable." I listened, my heart pounding as the plan took shape. Piece by piece, we were building the trap. For once, Thomas wouldn't see me as the woman he dismissed, the wife he erased. He'd see me as the storm that ended him. But even as determination burned inside me, unease gnawed at the edges. The letters, the shadowed man in the courtyard, the USB drive Harris told me not to touch. It all whispered that Thomas wasn't fighting alone. Still, I pushed the doubt down. "We do this carefully," I said. "We don't give him a chance to spin his way out. When the curtain falls, he won't have anywhere to run." Mara nodded. "That means discipline. You'll need to hold steady until the gala. Don't confront him directly. Don't tip your hand. We'll let him think you're broken, hiding. The shock will make the strike harder." That night, after the others left, Elaine sat beside me. "You sure about this?" she asked quietly. I stared at the wilting roses on the nightstand, their petals now almost black. "He buried me once. If I don't fight back, he'll do it again. But this time he'll learn the truth. I am not the one who disappears. He is." Over the next 2 weeks, the hospital room became our headquarters. Harris delivered more files daily. Shell companies, falsified contracts, transactions routed through his mistress's accounts. Mara drafted the lawsuit, each page a blade ready to cut him down. Lucas prepared the story for maximum damage, arranging headlines that would shatter his reputation. And every night, when Elaine thought I was asleep, I would hear her whisper, "Hold on, Annabella. Just hold on." Then came the test run. Harris set up a projector in my room, loading the files onto a screen. One by one, the evidence lit up. Thomas's face in hotel lobbies, his signatures on falsified transfers, his mistress holding jewelry bought with stolen funds. My stomach turned, but I forced myself to watch. When it ended, Harris shut off the projector. The room fell silent. Mara looked at me. That's just a fraction. Are you ready for the whole storm? I met her gaze, my voice steady. More than ready. But as I spoke, I caught sight of the USB drive again. Still untouched. Still waiting. Harris's warning echoed in my head. When you see it, you'll understand. That night, unable to resist any longer, I slid the USB drive into my laptop. A video opened. The screen filled with Thomas's mistress, not just laughing with him, but standing with a man I recognized instantly. One of the investors. And they were whispering about a plan. A plan to make me disappear for good. The video on the USB drive haunted me. Thomas's mistress leaning close to one of his investors, whispering with a smile that sent chills through me. She won't be a problem. Not for long. Her voice was cold, sharp, calculated. The investor nodded. If she stays alive, this entire scheme collapses. My stomach twisted as the screen went black. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart racing. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just greed. It was conspiracy. I told Harris the next morning. He ran his hands over his face, muttering, I was afraid of this. He's not working alone. The mistress isn't just a fling. She's part of the machine. And now at least one investor is in it with them. Mara's face darkened as she flipped through the files. That changes everything. If you walk into the gala, you're not just exposing Thomas. You're walking into a room where half the people might want you gone. Elaine gripped my arm. We can cancel. We can find another way. But I shook my head. No. If we back down, he wins. He keeps the money. He keeps the lies. And next time, they won't just try to bury me with a coffin. They'll succeed. Lucas leaned forward, his recorder on the table. Then we adjust. If they're planning to shut you down, we need to make sure the reveal can't depend on you standing at a podium. We need backups, redundancies. Multiple ways to make the truth explode. The week before the gala, Harris set up a network. Copies of the files were uploaded to cloud drives, encrypted and timed for release. Lucas prepared a drop for the press that would trigger the moment the first projector flickered on. Mara filed documents under seal, ready to unfreeze the inheritance funds and show the courts the fraud. But then came the call. A nurse walked into my hospital room with a folded note. No name. Just the words, cancel or you won't walk out. My blood ran cold. Harris scanned the note, shaking his head. They're escalating. If they're this desperate, it means they're scared. But it also means they're dangerous. Elaine begged me again. Annabella, please. It's not worth your life. But my answer was the same. It is worth everything. I'm not letting them erase me twice. Finally, the day arrived. The Whitmore Hotel glittered under chandeliers. Every table draped in white. Every seat filled with polished shoes and expensive jewelry. My heart hammered as I entered, my gown hiding the brace still strapped beneath. Elaine walked beside me, steadying me with her arm. Mara and Harris blended into the crowd, watching. Lucas slipped past waiters, his camera disguised as part of the press crew. Thomas stood at the center, his hand on his mistress's waist, flashing the smile he used to charm the world. His eyes locked on me, and for a fraction of a second, his smile faltered. I forced myself to walk forward, each step echoing in my chest. The plan was simple. I would hold the stage just long enough for Harris and Lucas to trigger the reveal. Then the files, the receipts, the proof would play across the giant screens. But before I reached the stage, a man stepped in front of me. Broad shoulders, dark suit, no name tag. His voice low. Turn around. Leave now, or you won't make it to the microphone. I froze. Harris was too far to intervene. Elaine gasped behind me. The room carried on as if nothing was wrong, crystal glasses clinking, violins playing. Only I knew that with one step forward, I could be signing my own death warrant. The man's eyes were cold. Final warning. This isn't your fight anymore. I clenched my fists, staring straight past him at Thomas, who was already lifting his champagne glass, preparing to speak. My pulse thundered. Then, just as Thomas opened his mouth, every light in the ballroom flickered, then went dark. Darkness swallowed the ballroom. Gasps rose like waves. Glass chimes cut the silence. A violin string snapped somewhere near the dais. For one breath, the world held still. Then our plan woke. Harris's encrypted hotspot kicked in. The backup projector hummed from the balcony rail, running on a hidden battery. Nora, no, not Nora. Elaine, my anchor, lifted her phone and whispered. Now. Lucas tapped his screen. The timed release went live. The main screens flared to life. Not with Thomas's logo. With truth. Receipts filled the wall. Boutique slips coded as business expenses. Hotel bills hidden under executive travel. Transfers sliced into neat monthly chunks, routed through the mistress and then to offshore accounts. Each image stamped with dates. Each line item clear. Murmurs hardened into anger. Chairs scraped. Someone cursed under their breath. The investor who had whispered in the video stared at the floor, motionless, as if stillness could erase his face from the screen. Thomas tried to seize the microphone. This is fake, he barked. You are being manipulated by a bitter woman. His voice sounded thin in the dark. The next slide answered him. A signature. His signature. Side by side with bank authorizations. A red arrow tied them together like a noose. I felt fear, yes, but armor layered over it. I stepped to the edge of the stage, my voice steady and plain. These are not accusations. These are records. You moved money while I lay in a hospital bed. You moved assets while still married. You used your company like a wallet. You buried me and then you stole. Phones rose. Flashes popped. Reporters surged forward from the edges, caught between awe and hunger. Thomas's mistress tore her hand from his. You told me she died. Her voice shook. You told me everything was clean. He hissed, be quiet. But the room had already turned. The screens changed again. The video from the drive. The mistress in a quiet bar. The investor leaning in. Their voices clear. If she stays alive, the scheme collapses. Then she will not be a problem. A roar filled the hall. Not applause. Outrage. Fear. Self-preservation. Men reached for phones. Women covered their mouths. A donor shouted, "Call the police." Another yelled, "Call the board." Thomas lunged toward me. Two security guards moved at once, but Harris reached him first, shoulder lowering to stall the impact. Thomas stumbled. The microphone skittered across the floor. Elaine stepped to my side, feet planted. "Stand your ground," she whispered. I nodded once. My knees wanted to shake. They did not. Lucas's stream ticked upward on his screen. Thousands, then tens of thousands watched the truth unfold. He murmured, "It is out. Even if they pull the plug, it lives." The chairman of the board pushed through the crowd, face white. "Thomas, is that your signature?" His voice cut through the noise. Thomas did not answer. He looked to the investor from the video. The man refused to meet his eyes. "Security," the chairman said, voice flattening. "Take them both to the side room and hold them. Call the authorities now." Two guards moved for the investor. He tried to slip away through the catering doors. Harris whistled a sharp note. A third guard blocked the exit with the serving cart. Metal clanged. The investor froze, defeated by a tray of coffee cups and a room that had stopped believing him. Thomas found his breath again and tried a different mask. "Annabella, we can resolve this in private. You are confused. You are unwell. Think about your future. Think about safety." I lifted my chin. I already did. That is why I brought everyone. Mara stepped into the light at last, a folder in her hands. "For the record," she said, addressing the chairman, "we filed motions this afternoon. Temporary restraining orders. Preservation of evidence. Freezes on suspect accounts. A copy of this disclosure has been provided to law enforcement and to regulators." The mistress swayed, face drained. "Thomas," she whispered. "What did you do?" He said nothing. He stared at me, his eyes no longer angry but calculating. The look of a man searching for a trapdoor. The screens rolled on. Letters. Dates. A snapshot from the hospital parking lot that made my skin crawl. A dark coat, a cap, a man looking up at my window. Time-stamped. The boardroom exhaled as one. The threat was no longer rumor. It was exhibit. A woman in the second row stood, voice trembling with rage. "You asked us for more capital last quarter," she said to Thomas. "You smiled while you stole." She turned to me, her expression softening. "How did you survive this?" "By refusing to be quiet," I said. The ballroom doors swung wide. Uniforms entered, blue lights splashing across glass. The chatter fractured into silence. The officers did not hurry. They did not shout. They moved with the measured pace of inevitability. One stepped forward. Thomas Levitt? His tone left no space for lies. Thomas straightened as if for a photograph. You cannot arrest me here. The officer did not argue. He held out his hand. The board chairman passed him Mara's folder. The officer read a page, looked up and said, "You will come with us." Handcuffs clicked. A small sound. Final. The mistress cried. The investor sagged. The donors whispered. The cameras feasted. For a moment I did not feel triumph. Only breath. In. Out. Proof had replaced doubt. Law had replaced performance. The stage Thomas loved had turned into a witness stand he could not escape. He twisted as they led him away. "You will regret this, Annabella," he said. Not a shout. Promise. You have no idea who you crossed. I held his gaze. I crossed a grave you dug for me. I walked out. He looked past me, then over my shoulder toward the balcony. His expression changed. Not rage. Relief. He smiled, small and secret, at someone I could not see. My skin went cold. A second later, every screen blinked, stuttered, and a new image flashed. My hospital bracelet, a scan of my medical chart, and a forged consent form authorizing a transfer of my inheritance for medical guardianship. The signature at the bottom looked like mine. And beside it, in bold letters, a name I knew too well, Elaine. The air in the ballroom froze. The forged consent form filled every screen, my name, my hospital bracelet, my inheritance. And beside my forged signature, the name that gutted me, Elaine. I heard the gasps before I even processed it myself. Whispers spread like wildfire. Heads turned toward me, then toward her. My sister. My one anchor in all of this. Elaine's face drained. "No," she whispered. "That's not me. That's not real." Her voice cracked, but doubt had already infected the room. Thomas saw it instantly. His lips curled, even with the cuffs around his wrists. "You see? She isn't the innocent savior she pretends to be. She wanted the money just as much as I did." "Shut up," Elaine snapped, tears spilling down her face. "Annabella, you know me. You know I'd never." But the crowd didn't know. To them, betrayal was blood sport, and the screens were their proof. Investors murmured about fraud. Donors stepped back from me as if scandal itself was contagious. Lucas fumbled with his tablet. "This isn't from us," he hissed. "Someone hijacked the feed. This was planted." Mara's jaw tightened. She grabbed Elaine's arm, pulling her close. "Say nothing. Do not defend yourself in this room. They want you to panic. They want her," she nodded at me, "to feel alone." But I wasn't alone. Not yet. I forced my voice above the noise, sharp and cold. "This is a forgery. My sister has stood by me every day. And unlike Thomas, she doesn't need to fake signatures to steal money." It hushed some, but not enough. The officers hesitated, looking between us, between the evidence and the emotion. One of them muttered, "We'll need to collect this file too." Thomas leaned forward as far as the cuffs allowed, his voice low, poisonous. "Even if you drag me out, your own blood will destroy you. Imagine the headlines. Sisters tear each other apart over millions. Who will believe you then, Annabella?" The seed was planted. That was the danger. Not whether it was true, but whether people believed. Harris moved quickly. He intercepted the feed, typing furiously at the control panel. "I'm tracing it," he muttered. "Whoever injected this knows the system. This wasn't random. Came from inside the building." My heart pounded. Inside. Meaning someone at the gala was still working against me. Then I noticed her, the mistress, standing not far from the catering doors, her phone angled low, a satisfied smirk hidden under her hand. She saw me looking. She didn't flinch. She wanted me to know. Rage steadied me. I turned back to the crowd, voice sharper than glass. "You saw the receipts. You saw the offshore accounts. You saw the video. That is truth. This," I pointed to the forged consent, "is desperation. A weak trick to shift the story. And if you think I'll let one lie erase everything, you haven't been paying attention." Mara backed me up instantly. She stepped forward, projecting calm authority. For the record, we filed motions with certified evidence this morning. The court has time-stamped filings. This fake document cannot change that. Lucas raised his tablet high, showing the live stream numbers climbing. Over 100,000 people are watching this right now. Every second it stays online, the truth spreads further. You can't stop it. But Thomas only laughed. His cuffs clinked as the officers dragged him toward the doors. His voice rang out behind him, clear enough for every microphone to catch. You're already cracking, Annabella. The world always chooses the juiciest lie over the boring truth. Let's see how long they believe you now. The doors slammed shut. His laughter echoed even after he was gone. Elaine clutched my arm. I swear to you I didn't. I know, I whispered back. But my eyes stayed locked on the mistress. She slipped out of sight through the side doors, calm as a queen leaving her throne. Harris cursed under his breath. She's the leak. She had access. But why frame Elaine? What's the angle? Mara answered before I could. Divide and conquer. If they can fracture us, Annabella stands alone. Alone she falls. I gritted my teeth. Then we don't fracture. Not tonight. Not ever. The ballroom buzzed with chaos. Investors arguing, reporters scrambling. Officers trying to contain the room. My name, my fortune, my family, everything hung by a thread. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I swiped it open and a message appeared. Leave your sister behind if you want to survive. The morning after the gala felt heavier than any night in the hospital. My phone lit up before the sun even rose, each notification a fresh wound. News outlets spun the story in every direction. Disgraced CEO exposed in front of investors. Mistress and fraud unraveled in gala scandal. And worst of all, sister implicated in $11 million inheritance plot. Elaine sat on the edge of my bed, her face pale. They think I forged it, she whispered. Annabella, they actually believe I'd betray you. I caught her trembling hands. I know you didn't. And I won't let them make you their shield. This isn't about us. It's about keeping me off balance. But doubt was everywhere. Social media churned with venom. Some users cheered me for standing tall. Others accused me of orchestrating a family war for attention. The forged consent form had planted poison deep into the narrative, and Thomas knew exactly how fast it would spread. Mara arrived just after dawn, her suit wrinkled, her eyes sharp. She dropped a stack of newspapers on the table. You're the lead story in every outlet. That means two things. The evidence is too big to bury, but so is the lie. If we don't crush it fast, you and Elaine will drown together. Harris stormed in moments later, holding his laptop. I traced the hack. It came from a terminal inside the Whitmore Hotel. The mistress planted it. She wanted Elaine framed. But there's more. The investor from the video? He wired a transfer last night. Offshore. Large sum. He's running. I leaned forward. Running where? Harris's jaw tightened. Panama. Lucas barged in last, his voice crackling with urgency. The live stream hit over 2 million views overnight. The public is watching. Some believe you, some don't. But momentum is yours if you move now. The room spun with voices, strategies, warnings. Elaine stayed silent, her head bowed until she finally whispered. Maybe I should step back. If they want me out, maybe. No, I snapped. My voice cut sharper than I intended, but I didn't soften. That's what Thomas wants. He's already laughing in his cell, imagining us torn apart. We don't give him that. For a moment, silence. Then Mara said, we need to double down. Prove the forgery, expose the mistress, and cut through the noise before Thomas spins this trial into a circus. The FBI call came at noon. A stern voice informed me that Thomas and the investor were under federal investigation, but the case had widened. We need to interview your sister, the agent said. The forged document has her name. If she's innocent, we'll clear her. But you should understand how this looks. Elaine squeezed my hand, tears streaking her cheeks. I'll tell them everything. I'll take every question. I just need you to believe me. I pulled her into a hug. Belief isn't the problem. It's survival. They want us divided, but we're not going to give them the satisfaction. That evening, Harris played the USB video again, this time frame by frame. The mistress whispering with the investor. The smirk. The promise that I would not be a problem. Each second was a dagger. Lucas leaned closer. She thinks she's untouchable. But if we get her phone records, we can link her to the forged file. If we prove she planted it, Elaine is free, and Thomas loses his last card. Mara nodded. And the perfect place to do it? Court. Under oath. Where lies can't hide. The weight in my chest eased just enough to breathe. The gala had been bloody, but the war wasn't over. Tomorrow the courtroom would become the new stage. And unlike the ballroom, Thomas wouldn't be able to hide behind chandeliers and champagne. But even as hope flickered, a chill remained. Because when I scrolled through my phone one last time, one message hovered above the flood. An untraceable number. The word simple. Cold. Next time we won't miss. I looked up at Elaine, Harris, Mara, and Lucas, each waiting for my next move. Then we end it tomorrow, I said. In court. For everyone to see. The courthouse steps gleamed under the morning sun. Reporters lined both sides of the path, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. The chaos of the gala had spilled into daylight, and the world wanted blood. Elaine walked beside me, chin trembling but held high. Harris, Mara, and Lucas flanked us like armor. I had no illusions. Today wasn't just about my inheritance or even Thomas's crimes. Today was survival, for me, for Elaine, for every truth we had fought to drag out of the shadows. Inside, the courtroom smelled of old wood and disinfectant. The judge, stern and deliberate, took her seat. Thomas sat across the aisle, his suit still perfect despite the night in a cell. The mistress sat behind him, eyes darting, lips pressed tight. The investor's chair remained empty. He was already in federal custody. The prosecution wasted no time. Exhibits flashed across the monitors. Bank transfers, signed contracts, the video of whispered conspiracy. Each page stacked higher than the last, until the weight of it seemed to press Thomas into his chair. Then came the defense. His lawyer, smooth and practiced, raised the forged consent form. This proves the plaintiff's case is tainted. Her own sister authorized guardianship. If they are capable of hiding that, what else have they hidden? All eyes turned to Elaine. Her hands trembled in her lap. My heart twisted, but I stayed still. We had prepared for this. Mara rose. Calm. Precise. We anticipated this argument. Your Honor, we submit forensic analysis of the consent form. She handed the folder to the bailiff. Digital signature analysis, ink dating, metadata traces. It was generated not in the hospital, but weeks later, on a device owned by the defendant's mistress. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. Order. I watched the mistress shrink into her chair, her face drained. Harris leaned toward me and whispered, "Checkmate." Elaine was called to the stand. She spoke softly but firmly. I never signed that form. I never betrayed my sister. And I never will. The prosecutor followed with the coup de grace. They played a recording, pulled from the mistress's phone, recovered overnight. Her voice unmistakable. If the sister takes the fall, Annabella breaks. Planted under her name. She'll never recover. The room fell silent. Not a whisper. Not a breath. The lie had collapsed under its own weight. Thomas's face went red. He slammed his fist on the table. You don't understand. I built this empire. She was nothing without me. I stood, my voice carrying across the wood and marble. You built it on lies. And today it ends with truth. The gavel struck. The judge's verdict echoed. All fraudulent transfers are frozen. The inheritance is restored. Charges against the defendant proceed to trial. The reporters swarmed outside the courthouse. Microphones shoved toward me. Voices demanded answers. Annabella. How does it feel to bring down your husband? Annabella, what will you do with your inheritance now? I paused on the steps, sunlight warming my face, the weight finally lifting from my chest. Elaine stood beside me, no longer accused but absolved. Harris, Mara, and Lucas watched with quiet pride. I met the cameras, my voice steady. This isn't just my story. This is what happens when someone underestimates the woman they tried to erase. They thought I was weak. They thought money and power would silence me. They were wrong. The truth will always find a stage, and when it does, lies cannot survive the light. The crowd erupted with questions, but I didn't stop. I walked forward, every step louder than Thomas's laughter, every breath stronger than his betrayal, because I had survived. And I had won. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone told you that you were nothing, remember this. The most dangerous thing they can do is forget that you are stronger than their lies. And if you want more stories where betrayal meets justice, stay here, because the next storm is already coming.